Hi, I'm Dr. Shannon South. I'm an award-winning therapist and a best-selling author, and I'm so thrilled to be here with you today. I'm going to be talking with you about how to stomp out your joy busters, 10 therapist-tested stress reducers. And in the past 20 years, what I've noticed with my clients is that these things work like a charm. They really help you get to your essence of joy and love, which is who we truly are. And so let me talk a little bit about the nervous system. What tends to happen in the nervous system is we get all these messages from the brain, we have all this conditioning and all these experiences. And I'll show you my little gadget. I got this at the fair. I just love it. It is this little thing that shows how our nervous system works. And so when we're in a stress pattern, what happens is sometimes we contract and we pull in and we're not our best self. And so often, if we work with this, we can smoothly move back into our expansion, which is our best, most loving and joyful self and our most powerful self. And so the nervous system tends to contract and expand and contract and expand. And if we're in a stress pattern, we can get caught on one side or the other. And so as we learn to move through this rhythm with ease and grace, it reduces our suffering and our stress dramatically. So it's a wonderful thing to learn. So that's why I'm so excited about teaching you this today. You may have listened to How to Raise Your Joy IQ, and that tells a little bit more about my personal story, moving from contraction to much more expansion in my life. And one time I had the funniest thing happen. I was doing this lecture, and I stood up to lead a stress management in front of hundreds of people. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the stress, right in the beginning of the stress management, I had this huge wave of contraction, this panic come over me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to faint in front of all these people. This was years ago in my 20s. And I thought, this is hilarious. I'm leading a stress management, and here I am having this massive contraction. And the beauty of what happened is I moved out of that into this expansion due to, I think, some of the tools I've been using and some of the gifts that I've been given, and with grace, of course, and had this wonderful expansion, and everything went wonderful after that. It just flowed. And so our life can be just like that as we learn to move through these kind of contractions and expansions of our own life. And so let me give you a wonderful poem that really reiterates this point. One of my favorite poets, Rumi, and he talks about this contraction and expansion just like this. Your grief for what you've lost holds up a mirror to where you're bravely working. Expecting the worst, you look within and you find the joyful face you've been wanting to see. Your hand opens and closes and opens and closes. If it were always a fist or always stretched open, you would be paralyzed. Your deepest presence lies in every contracting and expanding, contracting and expanding, each as beautifully balanced and coordinated as bird wings. So I love this poem because the truth about it is he shows us that as we learn to balance and coordinate this beautiful thing, this beautiful energy of our healing, that we can come to the other side and find the gift in our joy buster and move into reducing the stress in our lives. So what are joy busters? We're going to talk a lot more about that during the top 10 that I share with you, but they can be things like perfectionism, self-doubt. They can be things like just having a negative self-image. They can be all these things that come up that keep us away from our joy. Experiences, people, conditioning. And so I would love to take you into my first big idea, which is investigating your growth edge. And what does that mean? So I had this quiz that I put together called www.thejoymagnetquiz.com. If you want to know more about, are you a joy buster, a joy builder, or a joy magnet, you can go to this quiz, and it gives you the answer to that question. And so sometimes it may be glaringly obvious what's our joy buster, right? It could be that it's just oozing out of us and we know exactly what it is, or it's hanging all over us. This is our joy buster. So we want to investigate that growth edge. Where are we contracting and expanding, and where are we getting kind of stuck in that contraction? And if you have a partner, they may be able to tell you that better than yourself. And then we want to find out how much suffering we're creating around that contraction. So how much suffering are we creating? And we're going to go into that in more detail. And then we want to find out what our options are. So when we move into expansion, how different does that feel? So I want to read a few of these for you so you can help investigate your growth edge today. I want to see if you can find where your growth edge is. And again, you may know it right away, or you may not know it. And so you may have done a lot of work on yourself, or something's not up today, and you may get a sense of what this is. So as I read it to you, I just want you to track your body. I want you to track how you feel in your body. I want you to just kind of sense how you feel in your emotions. And I just want you to pay attention to yourself as I'm reading these things to you. So are you motivated by fear and criticism? Are you urgent and perfectionistic? How about never good enough? Do you have self-sabotaging patterns running the show? Are you in a non-supportive environment from within or without? Do you live in an abusive environment with yourself or with others? Do you use negative reinforcement, or do you have a poor self-image? Are your actions or choices motivated by fear or lack of not enough? Do you have addictions or compulsions, or these things that you feel are completely out of control, these impulses that just run away with you like wild horses dragging you down the stream? Do you have greedy or neglectful patterns that are in charge, that imbalance you? Are you stuck in a fight mode where you're defensive anytime anyone says anything to you? Or you're in a flight mode where you want to run and hide and completely get away? Or are you in this freeze mode where you're so disconnected from yourself that you don't even feel alive, kind of shut down? Do you feel as if you've lost your magical innocent child? Do you feel if you've lost a sense of adventure in your life? Is your system feeling overloaded? Do you not know how to let go or move through your pain? You're just feeling stuck in a certain area. Have you settled for a life of complacency and numbness, or given up in some area, some of your dreams? Are you in reaction mode or not responding from your wisest self? These are just some ideas of what may be joy busters for you. So if you sensed any of those, you can write them down, and there may be one that stands out more than another. And we're going to kind of work through that. So you can test these things I'm going to be giving you today to see if that joy buster actually fits with the things I'm going to be giving you. So one thing we want to do when you recognize what your joy buster is we want to interrupt that joy busting pattern. So what does that mean when I say interrupt? The way patterns work in our brain, this is the work piece. This is our retraining your brain piece that I talked about in the Raising Your Joy IQ 30-minute webinar. But this is the place where we want to interrupt that pattern. So for example, I'll say to some of my clients, why don't you get some essential oil out? You're in the middle of this hopeless pattern. You're beating yourself up. Have a sniff. It'll shift immediately. Well, you're in a bed of flowers. How can you feel so crappy about yourself, right? Or you move into calling a friend, and make sure it's a friend that doesn't keep feeding that negative pattern, right? Or you go on a jog, and then you totally shifts that, and you start looking at the trees and listening to the birds, or you go outside, something that helps interrupt that pattern. They call it repetition compulsion. I love that saying, because these patterns come up over and over and over, wanting to get healing. And so as they create more suffering, we want to interrupt them. And that's the training piece. And as we interrupt them with something positive, something that shifts our energy, we can get better. I have clients come in and they're like, I journal, I really do, but I just keep saying the same crap over and over. And I'm like, exactly. It's not going to help you. If you keep staying in that spiral over and over, you want to journal about something new and interesting or exciting. You want to expand your growth edge when you're journaling. You don't just want to journal the same stuff over and over and over and over and over. And so another thing that will help you is that clearing out process. And I did a little piece of that with you in the How to Raise Your Joy IQ webinar, but you can also get that on my website. You can go to my website and I actually give you a free webinar, Raising Your Joy IQ webinar. I go through that clearing out process, and that's another way where you really can interrupt this joy busting pattern. So my website's drshannonsouth.com if you'd like to go get more on the clearing out process for that. So my big idea number 2, well, another thing I'd like to share real quickly about interrupting your joy-busting pattern is I always say stop, drop, and meditate. Anytime there's something going on, and I'll even look at my husband and we'll be like, stop, drop, and meditate. We let go, we get in our meditation, it totally shifts our energy, we come back and then we talk about it. And it really shifts our relationship pattern, and it really helps so much. Or get in the sun. Lots of things you can do to stop that repetition compulsion. Because I can remember years ago when I was in relationships when I was younger, I would get this negative thinking pattern about men or relationships, and I would just swirl and swirl and swirl in it. And I don't do that anymore. I'm free from that. And so you can get free from anything if you learn to retrain it and learn to interrupt that pattern. And it's wonderful that you can have that freedom, because that reduces your suffering exponentially. So big idea number 2. We want to increase our inner connection. This is number 3. No, excuse me. And we did number 1, investigate your growth edge. 2, interrupt your joy-busting pattern. And 3, increase your inner connection. So while we increase our inner connection, what does that mean? We want to increase our inner connection with that net of joy and love that I was talking about earlier. The joy and love, what I found in my practice, they kind of melt away, these joy busters. They kind of just help relax them, settle them down, and eventually they lay down and quit bugging the crap out of you, right? But the way we do that is there's lots of different ways. And how I help my clients with that is I help them find a safe place. And that's a wonderful exercise. I had a client today. She went into a safe place within 2 minutes. She came in a stress pattern. We did the safe place exercise. Within 2 minutes, she was completely better. She was not nauseated. She was relaxed. She felt super. And she said, why couldn't I do that yesterday? And I said, it makes such a difference when we have that net of support and love. And as she strengthens that in herself, she won't need to come to me to help get that. And so it's so powerful when we increase that inner connection. So a safe place exercise you can do for yourself is just to close your eyes and to ask yourself, what feels good and safe to me right now? What do I notice? What are the sights? What are the sounds? Who are the people there? Are there animals? What are the support networks that are there? And I do an exercise called the Joy Circle. If you'd like that, you can go to my website as well. That gives you that net of support and love where you really create that connection to your inner, most loving, wise self. And that completely melts away and relaxes that joy-busting pattern. Very, very important. So big idea number 4, and I know we only have a few minutes. I could go into all these things for a whole hour if I had time. Big idea number 4 is stop feeding the monster. Now, what does that mean? So the step 3 is increasing your inner connection to the love and the joy and the empathy. That's like, there is a parenting technique called love and logic. You give your child the empathy first, then you set the limit. You do the same with yourself. You get the empathy, you increase your inner connection, and then you set the limit. Stop feeding the inner monster. So what are the inner monsters that we feed that increase our suffering? One is blame. And like I said earlier, blame is this kind of thing where we want to just give our anger outward to something else or someone else. That car in front of us, or that person that did this or said that or whatever. And that's one way that we try to survive in the world, actually. And it actually can be very smart until it's not. And then we don't need it anymore. It starts to get in our way of our joy. So we want to stop feeding that monster. And then there's shame, which is that anger turned inward. It's one of the most toxic. I want you to hear this again. It is one of the most toxic things that eats away at our love and joy, increases our suffering, is this shame. I am wrong, I am bad, I am a horrible person and being because this happened, or because of whatever. We get triggered and we have a shame attack, is what I call it. Not even a panic attack, those are awful enough, but a shame attack. And so how do we do that? We want to get in touch with our anger so we can move that out, put it towards who it is, and then come back full cycle to that next step, which we're getting ready to do, which is a pure heart, that forgiveness piece. But let us talk about that and how to move that shame through us. Very, very important cycle. And then projection. So like we talked about earlier, let's say your parents didn't take responsibility for something in their life, or the people around you that took care of you, or your siblings didn't take responsibility, and then they kind of blamed it on you or put it on you, and you took that on. We want to learn how to clear that out and let that go. And when we do that, we tend to stop projecting onto ourselves as well as taking on others' projections. And it becomes much cleaner. So we don't feed the monster that way. We clean our energy that way. We say, no, that's not mine, that's yours. Find ways to navigate that so we can feel that joy and love. And the drama triangle. You may have heard of the drama triangle. It is a pure package of insanity, and we all do it. We want a rescuer. Maybe this food will rescue me. We want a rescuer. Maybe this relationship will rescue me. We want all kind of rescuers. And we want to learn how to rescue ourselves. What do I really need? What do I really want? And we have a persecutor. We persecute ourselves. We persecute others horribly. What if it's nobody's fault? It just is. Imagine that. So if we come from that place of what is, then that helps us free ourselves up from feeding the monster. And then the victim state. We've all been victimized, every one of us. And so we move into that victim energy by honoring it, loving it, and then move out the other side by clearing it so that we can not feed that monster and stay stuck in that place of victim where we're in contraction. We can move into the expansion. So every time we feel victimized, we figure out what we need to empower ourselves back into that expansion, and we don't feed the monster anymore. It's a wonderful way to feel more free and decrease our suffering. Okay, so big idea number 5, how to increase your dopamine naturally. We want to learn how to increase our dopamine because most of us are dopamine deficient. If you look at studies, I did a study for my dissertation in school, and I gave everybody a urinalysis, and they were all deficient in dopamine. Everyone that showed up for the study. 38 people. It was amazing. And I thought, how can this be? We have a culture of deficiency in dopamine. And I know that's a generalization, but we have a lot of that going on. And so if we can learn to increase the feel-good center in our brain naturally, we can truly decrease our suffering. So ways we do that: laughter, music, touch, communicating, sharing what's most authentic on our heart. I heard the greatest quote the other day. It said, loneliness does not come from being alone. It comes from not being able to share what's in our deepest heart. And so if we're authentic and deeply sharing with people that we love and we're getting support, we can't feel lonely. So it's a powerful, powerful, powerful tool, and it increases the dopamine in our brain when we're connecting from that place of authenticity. So another meditation I have that you can also find on YouTube is called a Love Wisdom Meditation. And if you want to Google 2 to 5 minutes, how to reduce stress and depression in 2 to 5 minutes with myself and Marcy Shimoff, Dr. Shannon South and Marcy Shimoff, you will find that exercise on there, and I will lead you through it. And it's a meditation that takes you through all of the centers of your body, and it completely shifts that inner critic to where you move into a loving, loved, and loving place inside of yourself. So as you do that, you increase the dopamine. And when I studied this meditation, it increased the dopamine significantly within 15 minutes a day for 3 weeks in all of the people that did that meditation. So I give it to clients often. I gave it to a guy the other day. He's been doing it for a month now. He said, I have never felt happier. He said, I can't tell you how well this has worked because I feel just naturally lighter, more resilient, this buoyancy inside of himself, this dopamine, or this oxytocin, which is that mother-baby bonding chemical. He's just loving himself up. And he said, I just can't tell you the lightness that I feel. That's that expansion. That's that place, that increased dopamine, that increased oxytocin, that yummy stuff that we want to get to so we can reduce our suffering and we have more resilience for life, because life is kind of crazy sometimes and painful. So please go to that exercise if you have time. And if we have time at the end of this 30 minutes, I would love to share it with you. So let's move on to our other big ideas, and then maybe I'll have time to share it with you. And Dr. Shealy, who I studied with, he has a protocol now on how to increase oxytocin in your brain. He actually has an essential oil that you can take and put on these acupressure points that increases that oxytocin, that mother-baby bonding chemical, which is fantastic. So if you want to get more information on that, you can go to Dr. Norman Shealy and his protocols that are natural ways to increase the dopamine and oxytocin in your body. Okay, big idea number 6, strengthen your mind. Oh my goodness, we have got to have a strong mind to survive in this world. And I love the Buddha's quote. Buddha supposedly was the master of the mind, and Jesus was the master of the heart in some traditions. And so Buddha said, when the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. And so I love that quote because we want that strong, pure mind. So what does that mean? So we want to use empowerment language. So let me give you a little bit of this empowerment language and what that looks like, because it really makes a difference as we're talking to ourselves from a place of empowerment. So this is a disempowered language. I cannot have what I want or need. There is an external cause or an internal cause, something's wrong with me, that shame, right, that I cannot overcome. I feel vulnerable and I cannot tolerate uncertainty or physical discomfort. My energy is spent in worry, depression, anxiety. Oh, goodness, it's already draining me just reading it. I feel like I'm a weak person. I let my feelings make my decisions. I don't make plans because I don't know if I will be able to break my word. I may not make it. You know, that kind of disempowered feeling. And we need our feelings. I'm not saying do not honor your feelings, but our feelings are gas to the car. We don't want them running the show. We want to be running the show, our wisest self, driving the bus. And the feelings are information that we bring along with us that keeps us alive and juicy and creative and happy. So the more empowerment language goes like this. I have a sense of power. I'm learning I can trust myself. My prediction is I can handle it, whatever comes up. I have a sense of healthy connection to myself and others. I'm willing to be present to myself and others. I don't need to run from my thoughts. I don't need to run from my emotions or my physical sensations or from situations that are uncomfortable. I know how to open up to support. I do not experience myself as trapped. I have choices. That's empowerment language. I do not see myself as flawed or defective. I have a healthy sense of control, not control of things I can't control, but a healthy sense of control. I know I can calm myself if I need to. I no longer need to worry to feel a sense of control. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? I can release my what if thinking and tolerate not knowing the outcome. Wow, tolerate uncertainty. It's a big empowerment thing because life is uncertain sometimes. And the more resilience we get to tolerate uncertainty and our attitude towards uncertainty, the more joy we're going to feel. I'm comfortable enough to take risks and seek out ways to expand my comfort zone and grow. I know how to empower myself towards joy. So think about that language and maybe pick one thing that you'd like to practice each day that you use as empowerment language to strengthen your mind. One sentence. I used to say to myself, I am peaceful, I am at ease, I am well. Those just three simple things just increase and strengthen the mind. So it's a very powerful little formula. Okay, big idea number 7, purifying your heart. So we spend tons of time and energy purifying our water. We spend tons of time and energy purifying our food. How? Purifying our air? Do we purify our heart? And the number one way I found to do that is through forgiveness of the self and others. And one of the most powerful exercises, y'all may have heard of it before from other people, is called Ho'oponopono. And it's a beautiful Hawaiian prayer. And it's all about if we start feelings of resentment or anger or just injustice, which happens in the world, we just say to ourselves, I love you, thank you, please forgive me, I'm sorry. I love you, thank you, please forgive me, I'm sorry. Because what that does is it neutralizes that energy and our heart stays pure and open. And it allows us to live in the place of what we can control, which is keeping that pure heart and that strong mind, which is truly a way to decrease the suffering. So that ancient practice is fabulous. And I remember when I used to end relationship, when I would be ending a relationship or I would be being dumped years ago, I would write out this long list of the person I was in a relationship with, and I would forgive them. And I would forgive myself. I would say, I'm sorry that I didn't do this really well. I'm so sorry he wasn't able to reach his fullest potential in this situation. And I would go through this huge list of forgiving him and me. And boy, did that allow me to just feel so much freer, because it was always the angst of what wasn't done well, what wasn't done right, and this whole swirling of suffering that would be created even during the grief. Of course, you're grieving when you're ending a relationship or getting out of one or being thrown out of one. And it's like the grief is already there. That's what is. It's already there. But then if we add the layers of all the stuff on top of it, it really increases our suffering. So if we really work on focusing on the forgiveness and letting ourselves off the hook and letting them off the hook, it creates a beautiful freedom and a net of joy and love that we can live in forever and bask in, so we don't have to suffer. And then big idea number 8, mastering your physiology. Awesome, awesome, awesome thing to learn. Because as we master our physiology, I want you to learn to be able to be relaxed as fast as my clients. 2 minutes. I want you to know how to be relaxed in 2 minutes. I want you to be able to learn how to be relaxed in the middle of something super stressful. You can do that. You really can. And so when you learn to be relaxed in these simpler situations, you can expand that. Where's my little expansion ball? You can expand that to where you can be relaxed in more and more and more and more situations. And it's amazing the capacity of the body to be able to relax. And so the more relaxed we are, and of course I see people say, I want to be relaxed, but I'm still drinking caffeine all day. Or I want to be relaxed and I'm not exercising. Or I'm not sleeping. I mean, those things don't work, and we know it. Or we're on that insulin cycle, up and down, eating this crazy food, and our bodies can't relax. So we really want to master our physiology, and I have a great breathing exercise on my website that tells you how to do that. I call it the joy breath, and you're breathing in for 4, you're just holding for 7, and out for 8. It's a very simple, powerful little tool, power-packed relaxation tool, and if you do it off and on all day long, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. And you're going to be able to relax just like that. And it's such a freedom to have. And then big idea number 9 of how we reduce suffering and stomp out those joy busters is feeding the fire of your soul. Our soul, or your wisest self. What makes you feel alive? When we feed that fire of your soul, it's like having flowers in the garden. The weeds have no room. And so as you feed that fire, ask yourself, what makes you feel alive without guilt? What makes you feel on fire? On fire. So when I look at myself, when I go out hiking, I'm on fire, or I'm dancing, I feel so alive. My soul loves that. It's just like, woo, let's go. Or when I'm meditating, love that. Feels so on fire, so alive. Or writing most of the time, if I'm not creating suffering or drama with myself, I feel like my soul is on fire. And so finding those things for yourself that truly bring out the fire in you, the excitement to wake up in the morning. You wake up and you're like, I cannot wait to get to that thing, or I can't wait to experience that thing. That is that fire of the soul, and we really want to pay attention to that. And if you don't know what that is for you, start experimenting, because you will find it, and work from the inside out. Also clearing out those joy busters and using these 10 top ideas. The more you clear out of that, the more that fire will begin to arise naturally, and you can completely reduce your suffering, because you have so much excitement and creativity going on, or so much interest in what you're doing, that you don't have any room for it. So it's a beautiful thing. And then step number 10, our big idea is expanding your gratitude. So we started out with the contraction and the expansion. And so as we expand our gratitude for what is, we begin to decrease our suffering and increase our sense of well-being. So I'll give you a little example. One thing you can say to yourself, I get the privilege to, fill in the blank. I get the privilege to breathe. I get the privilege to breathe today. Not everybody got that privilege today. I get the privilege to pet this crazy cat right here. I may not always get that privilege. Everything is temporary. We get privileges all day long. And as we expand our gratitude about how many privileges we have and how spoiled, rotten we truly are, it blows our heart wide open, and we have no room for suffering. And so one exercise I use with clients and with myself is I'll go through my past. So you can do this right now if you want. You go to your past and you think to yourself, what is something in the past that I've absolutely, easily can say I'm grateful for? It'll probably come right up. And then what's something from the past that is harder to be grateful for? Oh, that was kind of tough. But if I'm shining the light of gratitude on that, maybe there was a gift in that for me, or maybe there was a way that turned my life and shifted the course of my life so that things are in a different place today. Or I use that in a way to create X, Y, or Z in my life. So that's one way we can look at our past. Let me look at our present moment right now in front of you. What is one thing you can easily be grateful for? I can look around right now. The sun is shining. Wow, it's beautiful. Beautiful sunshine. And then I can look around and maybe think, what is something that I'm not as grateful for? What can I find around that? Maybe that I have a glaring TV over here that I don't like in my room. I'd love for that just to be out of the room or something. And I need to learn to send gratitude to that, because sometimes there's some great shows on that I really like. I'm really grateful for that TV. So I'm really expanding my gratitude. So looking around your room right now, your present moment, and doing that exercise. And then in your future, what's something that you're totally easy, that you feel like it's really going to happen, that you're looking forward to. Maybe even later today or 10 years from now or a couple of years from now, you really have a sense it's easy to be grateful for. You really get excited about. And sending that gratitude. And then thinking maybe something that's more challenging in your future that you don't feel so certain about. And sending that gratitude. Okay, that struggle's there. I'm grateful that I have that struggle. I'm grateful that I have that goal I'm working towards to learn, to help me with that. We don't know how the outcome will be, but I'm grateful for the experience of getting to move towards that. So this exercise alone will help expand your gratitude exponentially, and you can decrease the suffering in your life dramatically when you really practice that kind of expanding of the gratitude. So I'm so grateful, speaking of gratitude, to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for your time. I want to end with a meditation, again, if you want more information about any of these 10 steps or any of the things we've talked about, I can send you to my website, drshannonsouth.com. I also have a webinar, raisingyourjoyiq.com, where I go into these. This is my first step, which is stomping out the joy busters. I go into my 3-step process in detail, and that is about raising your joy IQ. And then the third one is the quiz that I told you about earlier, thejoymagnetquiz.com. So as we end, I'd love to read this. It's clearly a Rumi day for me. I'd love to Rumi, the poet Rumi, said this: "You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly." So I wish you all any joy buster that's in your way, that it helps you fly higher and higher and higher so that you can achieve all your dreams, and that you can stomp those joy busters out, and that you can feel freer and freer away from your suffering and closer to who you truly are, which is joy and love. Thank you again for your time, and have a beautiful, joy-filled day. Bye-bye.